Heal your relationship with food. You hear that phrase everywhere now, on social media, in wellness spaces, in conversations about emotional eating, and yeah, here. But something interesting happens when I ask women what that actually means. Most people pause because while the idea sounds good, the reality is often unclear. Does it mean never overeating? Does it mean always eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full? Does it mean you never crave sugar again? Or does it mean something else entirely? Not having clarity around this is why most people feel like they're failing before they even start. They know what they don't want anymore, the guilt, the overeating, the constant mental battle, but they're not always sure what the healthy version actually looks like. So in this video, I want to break this down in a very real, practical way, what a healthy relationship with food actually looks like. Because when you understand what it actually looks like, healing a relationship with food becomes much less confusing. And some of the science I'm going to mention might actually surprise you, because a healthy relationship with food does not look the way most people think or expect. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a certified holistic health coach and also currently studying for a master's in nutrition and integrative health. And I work with women who feel stuck in emotional eating, binge restrict cycles, and the constant feeling of starting over with food. Women who are often incredibly capable in many areas of their life, but feel confused about why their relationship with food still feels difficult. On this channel, we talk about the deeper layers behind those patterns: mindset, nervous system regulations, hormones, the habits that actually create sustainable change. And today we're zooming out a little bit, because before you can heal a relationship with food, it helps to know what you're actually moving toward. So well then, let's dive in. A healthy relationship with food is not perfect eating. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. People assume that a healthy relationship with food means you eat well all the time, you never overeat, you always stop when you're full, you always make the quote-unquote right choices. But in reality, perfection around food is usually a sign of rigidity, not health. Someone with a truly healthy relationship with food will still eat past fullness sometimes, crave certain foods that are supposedly forbidden, eat emotionally once in a while, choose convenient foods on busy days, have periods where their habits are stronger and periods where they're messier. The difference isn't perfection. The difference is how those moments are handled. Instead of spiraling into guilt, restriction, or starting over, they simply return to their normal patterns, calmly, without any drama or punishment. A healthy relationship with food allows for imperfection without turning it into a crisis. One of the reasons this misconception is so powerful is because diet culture has trained us to believe that consistency equals perfection. If you're doing well, you should always be on track. If you fall off track, something has gone wrong. But human eating behavior has never worked that way. Even people with a very calm and healthy relationship with food still have days where they eat more than usual. They still have moments where they reach for food because they're tired or emotional. They still have weekends where meals are bigger or more indulgent than normal. The difference is that these moments don't turn into an identity crisis. Someone with a difficult relationship with food might think, well, I messed up, I need to fix this tomorrow, I might as well go all in and just start again tomorrow. But someone with a healthy relationship with food might think, well, that was a bit more than I needed, but oh well, it is what it is. And then they move simply on. That ability to move on is incredibly powerful because the nervous system stays calm, and calm is what allows your body to regulate hunger, fullness, and cravings much more naturally. Then food is not emotionally loaded. Another major shift is the emotional weight around food. When someone is stuck in a difficult relationship with food, eating often feels like a moral decision. Certain foods feel good, others feel bad. Eating well feels like a success. Eating something indulgent feels like you're a failure. But in a healthy relationship with food, that emotional charge softens. Food becomes information. Some foods support energy, some foods are enjoyable, some foods are convenient, but none of them define your worth as a person. When food loses its moral meaning, eating becomes much calmer, decisions become easier, and the mental space food takes up becomes much smaller. When food carries moral meaning, every decision becomes emotionally charged. You're not just choosing what to eat, you're choosing whether you're being disciplined or failing. And that creates constant pressure. When pressure increases stress hormones like cortisol, and elevated cortisol can increase cravings, especially for quick energy foods like sugars and carbohydrates. This is one of the reasons why people often crave forbidden foods more intensely when they're trying to be extremely strict with them. It's not just psychological, it's also physiological. When food becomes neutral again, your nervous system stops reacting to it as if it's a test you're constantly passing or failing, and eating becomes calmer. You might still prefer certain foods over others, but the emotional weight behind the choices decreases. Then flexibility exists alongside it. Another sign of healthy relationships with food is flexibility. There's usually some kind of structure, regular meals, balanced nutrition, some awareness of your hunger and fullness, but that structure is flexible enough to adapt to life. If dinner plans change, it's not as stressful. If you're hungrier one day, you eat more. If you're less hungry another day, you eat less. There's room for spontaneity. There's room for enjoyment. And the system doesn't collapse when things aren't perfect. And this flexibility is what makes habits sustainable, because life is not predictable, and a healthy relationship with food needs to function within real life. Think about someone who has a healthy relationship with food on a normal weekend. They might eat breakfast because they know it supports their energy. They might have lunch around middle of the day. Dinner might be a balanced meal most evenings. But if they have a late lunch with friends one day, they might skip dinner or eat something smaller later. If they're traveling, their meals might look completely different. If they eat airplane food one day in a few months, they not spiral. If they're hungrier one day, they eat more. If they're less hungry another day, they eat less. As I mentioned, the key is that their system is stable enough to adapt. A rigid system breaks when something changes. A healthy system bends. And that flexibility is one of the biggest signs that the relationship with food is actually working. Then hunger and fullness are respected, not obeyed perfectly. You will often hear advice like, well, just listen to your body. But that advice can feel confusing when your relationship with food has been chaotic for a very long time. In a healthy relationship with food, hunger and fullness are important signals, but they're not rigid rules. Sometimes you eat because you're hungry. Sometimes you eat because it's mealtime. Sometimes you eat because you're celebrating something. Sometimes you eat a little bit past fullness because the meal was so enjoyable. And that is okay. The goal isn't perfect internal regulation. The goal is a respectful relationship with your body signals. Over time, that respect naturally improves awareness, but it doesn't require perfection. Your hunger signals are influenced by many things: sleep, stress, hormones, your menstrual cycle, physical activity, and your hunger is not always predictable. Someone with a healthy relationship with food understands this. If they're hungrier during a stressful week, they might eat naturally more. If their appetite is lower when they're busy or distracted, they may eat smaller meals, but they don't interpret those as changes or those changes as failure. They interpret them as normal fluctuations. And that mindset alone removes a huge amount of anxiety around eating, because instead of trying to control every variable, they respond to what their body is communicating in that moment. Then food is not the only coping tool. One of the biggest differences in a healthy relationship with food is that food is not the primary emotional regulator. Food can still be comforting. That is normal. Humans have used food for comfort and connection for centuries, but it's not the only way someone deals with stress, boredom, sadness, or overwhelm. There are other tools available: talking to someone, going for a walk, journaling, resting, stepping away from work, doing some breath works, meditating. When those emotional outlets exist, food doesn't need to carry so much weight, and eating becomes much more balanced naturally. When food becomes the primary coping tool, it's usually because it works quickly. Food changes brain chemistry very fast. Carbohydrates increase serotonin, sugar increases dopamine. Eating can reduce stress temporarily, but when food is the only reliable way to regulate emotion, the relationship with food becomes way too overloaded. And it has to do way too many jobs: comfort, relief, distraction, reward, connection. In a healthy relationship with food, those roles are shared with other forms of regulations, like the examples I had just mentioned. And food can still be enjoyable, food can still be comforting sometimes, but it's no longer carrying the entire emotional weight of your day. Lastly, food stops taking up so much mental space. This is often the most noticeable shift. When someone's relationship with food is difficult, food often occupies a huge amount of mental energy. Thinking about what to eat, what not to eat, what you already ate, what you will eat tomorrow, waking up in the night and thinking too much about food, planning to be good, feeling bad about feeling bad. But when the relationship with food heals, that noise quiets down. Food becomes something you do, not something you constantly think about. You eat, you move on with your day, and your mental energy becomes available for other parts of your life again. Because truly, many people underestimate how much energy food struggles consume. the planning, the worrying, the negotiating with yourself, thinking about what you ate earlier, thinking about what you eat should later, and the constant mental noise is exhausting. When the relationship with food heals, one of the first things people notice is the quiet. Food stops being the center of every decision. You eat a meal and then you go back to your life. Your attention shifts to work, conversations, creativity, hobbies, relationships. And that reclaimed mental space is one of the biggest gifts healing a relationship with food can give you. So when people talk about healing their relationship with food, this is what they're usually referring to. Not perfect eating, not flawless discipline, but calm, flexibility, respect for your body, and food becoming a normal, integrated part of life instead of a constant mental battle. And if you're currently in the middle of that struggle, it is important to know that this shift doesn't happen overnight. It builds gradually through small changes in how you respond to food, emotions, and your body over time. A healthy relationship with food is not something that makes eating perfect. It's something that makes eating peaceful. And that peace is what allows healthy habits to become sustainable over time. If this topic resonated with you and you're trying to understand your own emotional eating patterns more clearly, I created a free quiz that helps you exactly with that. It's called What Type of Emotional Eater Are You? It helps you identify what drives you overeating, why certain moments feel harder than others, and what kind of support your body might actually need. You can take it in just a few minutes. The link is in the description below. And if this video helped you clarify things for you, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. And I'd love to know in the comments, what do you think a healthy relationship with food looks like? Now, earlier I said a healthy relationship with food might not look the way you expect, and hopefully now you can see why. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about peace. So lots of love, and until next time.